Unmistakably Newcastle upon Tyne, gateway on this high summer's afternoon to bizarre adventure. Not for these 10 men, some boozy charter flight to southern fleshpots. Down this route of 2,000 miles, they propose to run and swim and cycle to North Africa in just 7 days. The architect of this, the longest triathlon ever attempted, is Terry Moore. He's 44, a civil servant, and for 2 years now, his wife Kath has had to live with an obsession that's almost exhausted him before it starts.
Tired. Had 5 hours sleep last night, 3 hours the night before. I feel tired. Dying to get started to get a rest. The team are looking good. I've kept them out of most things if I could. I've tried to shoulder most of it myself, the organisation and stuff, so hopefully they'll be fitting well. Most of them seem to have slept well anyway.
Affairs of state made the Lord Mayor late by a pardonable 2 minutes. To Graham Armstrong, another civil servant, falls the honour of getting the show on the long, long road. For the support team too, it's to be no joyride. The euphoria of a rousing civic send-off can wear thin pretty quickly in shramming cold and blistering heat and seasickness. But all that lies ahead. For the moment, an escort of local athletes inspires Armstrong to jack up a cracking pace, the first 4 miles in 22 minutes. He's to hand over to Ian Mulvey, at 23 the youngest of the adventurers, by trade a fireman. 2,000 miles is only the round figure. It's actually 1,965 miles. Only 1,961 to go.
Yeah, very touching. All the families being there and people coming to send off. Really had a few tears in the eyes when I was starting off.
And then the runners along the route through Lowfell?
Yeah, good support there from, different clubs from the region. Thanks to all them for coming out. It's great, like.
As Mulvey sets off with well-wishers, I should explain that logistically, the assault team of 10 has been split into groups of 5, so that Group A can do its stint, then leapfrog ahead of Group B, theoretically to get some rest. Terry Moore is the very antithesis of the cartoonist concept of a tea-sipping, index-linked, pension-conscious civil servant. He perpetrated the idea for this triathlon after a relay swim across the English Channel. But since a man can die on a jaunt like this, the responsibilities upon him are very great. Moore is running no affluent works team flush with sponsorship. In fact, they've never had the funds to carry out a full reconnaissance. However, it should be pointed out that Pity Me is actually a village and not a state of mind.
I'm glad the first one's out of the way. There's a little bit of an undulating road there. I think I started a little bit fast. I got an early stitch. Not doing sufficient warm-up, went in a hard one down the hill. But I came through okay. Now, ready for my next stint?
Bill Sabiston is 35, and if all goes well on leg 2 of this odyssey, the Channel crossing, he could well establish a record that may just be unique. It will be only his 2nd time anywhere abroad, and both times he will have swum to get there.
Well, it's our turn in the escort when it comes.
The backup team in all comprises 5 wives, 1 girlfriend, 3 Man Fridays and 1 physiotherapist. But the food they have to distribute is hardly of gladiatorial nutrition. Barely south of Darlington, the first dispute breaks out. Group A have gone off fast and eaten up the ground. Group B, led by Mike Gill, are impatient for a slice of the action.
It makes no difference, really, except that with all the schedules worked out, we're cooking meals, knowing what we're going to eat, you've got to do it on times. Right, you've changed over now, all you're going to do is drive up the road, so where's the hassle? There's no sweat. You just drive up the road, we bring all the back. Oh, that's sticking.
What happens when it's the other way around then? When you're running behind schedule? What do we do then? Run the mileage?
Send somebody back, you would record, you've not read the notes? That was in there. You would notify us that you'd hang a schedule, we would send all the way up, we would take over up there. It's only going a few miles either way.
Okay, 1 sec. We'll see.
Motorways, of course, are out of the question. Their plotted route to Dover measures 366 miles. By nightfall, they've covered 81 miles and are on the A19 outside York. Reflector crossbelts and torches acknowledge the hazards of running on public roads in darkness. The two groups, temporarily at least, have reconciled their differences. Group B eventually saw action. Group A have taken it up again. It was an unfortunate schism to have appeared so early on.
How do you feel, Terry?
All right.
Is it all going well?
Yeah.
That looks pretty hard work.
No, it's not bad. Feet are getting a bit warm, but not too bad.
You're not doing good, mate.
Yeah, 10 more to do each tonight. But after being once around, we're doing 3 5s. That'll take us to the next changeover.
How about the thing overall?
A little bit disappointed with the disagreement at the first changeover. We've been debating the procedure for this for about 8 to 9 months now, and everyone had agreed that it was going to be on times.
Just breasted that hill there.
Breakfast time, day 2. Mike Gill, leader of Group B.
Quite a stint. Got to give it a bit of a blast. Got to make the time. Got over the top. It's easing off a bit. We can stride. But I'm sticking in. I'll make this time killer. Push. Cool down when we change. Enjoyed it. With that wind, it pushed a bit.
How do you feel about the triathlon overall so far?
So far okay. I thought we were going to have to scratch each other's eyeballs out at the early stage when we were talking about time and distance, but that's settled down quite amicably, and it's turning out it seems to be working very well.
You see, without being too provocative, I suppose they can only have one person really in charge, can't you?
Yeah, but like anything else, you've still got 10 individuals, so occasionally you'll get a bit of biting back, and I think that's the kind of spirit you'll want. If we all just sat back and laid there, there'd be no aggression. As long as the aggression doesn't turn onto each other, we're okay.
As far as you're concerned, that argument's all over.
Oh, God, yeah, it's gone and past that one. It's all taken on board, so it's going swinging at the moment.
One of the outstanding all-rounders in Mike Gill's group is Jim Hicks, a 34-year-old bank clerk. He's a powerful swimmer, veteran of many a marathon, and has cycled from Land's End to John O'Groats. The man he hands over to is Bill Minnican, a computer programmer and lay preacher whose luck has just run out. Aged 47, the oldest man in the event, he trained 2 years without injury, only to hurt himself just before the start.
A508 to Northampton, is that right?
Speed of me?
Yeah. Scott, this is a trailer. Do you know how Bill's feeling? Is he going to go on to the 5 mile point yet?
With Minnican visibly struggling, another man, Phil Darling, has aggravated an old football injury and will soon stop running altogether. But can he still swim and ride a bike?
I'm determined to do my bit. I mean, I feel very bad about what's happened now, but I'll do my extra bit in the channel and we'll get across there, and then we'll fly through France and Spain, so we'll get there.
It is the Sabbath in rural England. A light lunch perhaps in a pretty pub, church maybe, an hour or two with the filthy Sunday's scandal sheets, each man to his own. Graham Armstrong labours on beneath the frowning countenance of a place called Milton Keynes. Yesterday's jaunty stride across the Tyne is already flagging.
We're sitting in the van, we're getting stiff, we're having to come back out and trying to get that stiffness out again and get started. And by the time you get started again, it's time to get back in the van, you know, give somebody else a shot. So the legs are suffering more than anything else, I think, now.
You looked in real pain there. Is it really that painful?
Yeah. The calf muscles are really stiff, and the thighs are starting to stiffen up as well. I think we've got to go now.
There's a powerful masonry in running. A London colleague meets them to steer them across the capital. Ian Mulvey braves the Park Lane Lake, where taxi drivers tend to expect a tip for not running you over. To compound a genial welcome, it's lashing with rain. Vauxhall Bridge, 77 miles to the Channel, first swum in 1875. 113 years later, one problem remains eternal: catching the tide.
We've got a slight problem. I've been in touch with the Channel Swim pilot. I've spoken to his wife. The pilot was out down on the boat, moving his boat round to the harbour, ready for tomorrow. But the weather's really blowing up down there at the moment. Too wild to swim. And the forecast is slightly better for tomorrow, but still not ideal. So I think what we're going to have to do is get down there at 11 o'clock when we change over, is we will drive straight down to Dover and make a quick assessment, have a chat with the pilot, see what he thinks, and have a look at the stuff ourselves. Force 4, you wouldn't normally start swimming the channel with force 4 blowing. But force 4, force 5 would be okay with us.
They'd mostly assumed that running almost the length of England would be the toughest of the three disciplines. So the White Cliffs of Dover rekindle their optimism. But as Mike Gill prepares for the plunge, there's an ominous absence of bluebirds. The rest of the team are already afloat. For more than a century, channel swimming was tempered by a meticulous watch on the weather. Some swimmers waited a week for mill pond conditions. Against-the-clock triathlons allow no such precautions, so little wonder that some of the wives begin to wonder what breed of men they've married. All is well as Gill makes the first changeover, but in fact, this is the only time Mulvey will swim.
Going to take you to cross today?
10 or more.
How many times will each swimmer be in the water?
About 20 minutes in.
The masthead pennant signifies diver overboard, but as the 40-foot escort vessel begins to roll, perhaps "we need a doctor" would be more appropriate. Seasickness is beginning to take its toll, and all the while they must remain alert to the fact that they are tiny craft crawling through one of the most crowded maritime highways in the world. If you've suffered seasickness, you'll know the despair. A heaving deck, no hiding place, hours still to go. Mid-channel, the wind is now force 6, the waves between 8 and 12 feet, and half the team are so ill they can't swim at all. For those who can, progress is agonizingly slow, and the gale is driving them dangerously off course to the north.
Okay, Terry, how are things going?
Struggling hard at the moment. Dave White, the pilot, has just done a fix for us. He reckons between 7 and 8 mile before we hit land. In terms of time, that means about 4 to 5 hours where we're swimming. The speed's dropped dramatically over the last couple of hours. The call's getting through to everyone, and you'll see from the white horses in the water around us, some of these waves are quite enormous. When the swimmer dips down, he dips out of sight. It's becoming one hell of a struggle. Due to fatigue, colds, tiredness, have absolutely been dragging themselves from the depths of anything. I don't know what they've been finding, but they've been finding something, and they've been coming out of the rocks and sticking another stint in. But they're only getting one in, and then they're in a bad way. I mean, you can see them lying around the boat, John. I mean, they're wrapped up, they're shivering, they're cold.
They've been in the water now for 12 hours. Jumping in at this juncture is an act of genuine courage, some might say folly. But climbing out brings no relief. All of them are swallowing so much water that they join the ranks of the seasick. The question for Terry Moore now is how much longer he can ask anyone to swim. The English Channel leg of the world's longest triathlon was to have measured 22 miles. After swimming almost 14 hours, they'd covered 21.5 and were still miles offshore. Stupidity wins no posthumous prizes. The decision was made to end the swim and put in here to reunite with their anxious friends in Calais.
We've got all swimmers with us, all of them. Yes, everybody's okay.
There was no question of quitting the overall challenge. Leg 3 is a bike ride, a little matter of 1,570 miles of it, down to Gibraltar. Terry Moore leads off.
Got up to a 4.6. Just after halfway, caused some of the guys a number of problems. We found that the squad of swimmers was gradually becoming shorter and smaller, which meant people were virtually living in fear for when their turn was coming back around again. And you could see not the fear, the expressions they were having on their face when it was getting close to them getting back into the sea was unbelievable. In addition to the cold, sitting on the small boat for over 12 hours as it was then was a hell of a problem. When I made the decision to abort after 21 mile, I think I possibly had one, but only one swim left in me.
Their own Tour de France will take them through eminent wine country. No one gave it a thought. Moore's group have made inroads into the 573 miles down to the Spanish border during the night. But daybreak still finds Phil Darling haunted by the swim.
Frightening. It was getting colder by the minute, and the swell seemed to be getting higher. you were losing the boat out. You didn't even know you were swimming alongside it. It was disappearing from sight. It was getting pretty hairy.
What was the sensation like though? You were in the water and the waves would lift you up and drop you?
Well, at one point I was swimming within 2 yards of the boat, and I looked up and the hull of the boat was above my head, literally above my head. You could see the red paint on the bottom. And shut my eyes, and the next thing I knew, I'd been lifted by the same swell and the boat had come down where I was, and I was sort of tossed aside.
You thought your end was near?
I thought it was. That's when I really started to panic and get frightened. I mean, I've never been frightened swimming in the sea before, but I was getting pretty, especially when they were losing the lads through seasickness and everything. They just couldn't. I had every sympathy with them. They were really, really bad. I mean, they couldn't have swum another stroke. So the ones that were left had to really dig in, but it was getting too frightening. There's just 4 of us to try and manage it.
Initially, no one would go down below because the queasy ones were just staying on deck, and they were being queasy on deck lying there. But as it progressed, it got a bit more rougher, and it also got a bit chillier on the top. They had to come down below. So then you ended up with 2 or 3 bodies were lying flat out, wrapped up in whatever they could. The swimmers, as they came off, tended to stay in the cabin at the top. But towards the end, we were getting very cold as well. And I found some of my best mates were the ones who would snuggle up the tightest to me, and we had 3 of us on a bunk at one time, all giving each other body heat, and just to try and get some heat back in before we went back in the water again.
Psychologists studying the effects of stress and fatigue on friendship would have had a field day on the Spanish border. Frankly, confusion reigned here. Fog in the hills, intransigent customs officials, missed rendezvous, all combined to generate animosity between the 2 groups. Easy to criticize if you haven't tried running, swimming and cycling to North Africa in 7 days. Tempers were hardly improved by the climate. After the deadly chill of the Channel and a temperate run down through France, Spain proved to be stinking hot. Around noon, the landscape shimmered in the high 90 degrees. To massage egos as well as muscles, there was Andrew Walton, a physiotherapist from the Newcastle Sports Injuries Clinic.
I think it's a great credit to the athletes and to their training that they've had so few problems. I mean, all they've had really is just muscle stiffness, which is inevitable because of the intensity of the running and cycling, and then they have to, there's a quick changeover. They have to get straight into the van, and they're stuck sitting there for anything up to 3 or 4 hours. So inevitably they get stiff. So a lot of what I've been doing is just loosening, helping to loosen them up, showing how to stretch. They'll come along and say, oh, well, there's a bit of an ache here, and I'll just check it out. But nine times out of 10, it's been just a problem of fatigue really. And once they're loosened up and once they get out again, as long as they work up slowly, they'll be okay. One group, I won't mention any names. One group is has been more conscientious with their stretching, and they've had less problems than the other group. So
why won't you mention their names?
Why won't I mention their names? Oh well, because the boss is in the wrong team. What makes it so different is not the distance they're running at any time or the distance they're swimming or cycling. It's the fact that they're just packing it in non-stop into such a short period, into a period of a week. And the fact that I think one of the biggest problems is the quality of rest is poor. If the quality of rest was better, then they would get get on quicker. But they're getting generally tired now, as well as just sort of, you know, physiologically tired. These guys have been training for a long, you know, a long time, a year, 18 months?
Probably 18 months, I think.
Something like that, for this event. And they've gradually built up, and their tissues have had time to adapt to the increased stresses put upon them. So that's why they're able to cope so well.
Stage 4, the French border to Gibraltar, is 997 miles. The cyclist soon understands this is 137 miles further than from John of Groat's to Land's End. Given time, he might appreciate that this is hardly Benidorm, but the harshly beautiful Spain of Velázquez, Goya, and even Picasso before he started painting ladies with 17 breasts. Even the sunsets haven't changed. Granada, the old Moorish stronghold, was to have been approached in daylight, but intergroup strife has gone from bad to worse. It is 2 a.m. as they skirt one of the most beautiful cities on earth. The delay was exacerbated by one group, which shall remain unidentified, running a support van out of petrol and causing the loss of 2 hours. This left the team who just finished their cycling stint with no time to eat and only 8 hours to sleep and drive 150 miles along the Costa del Sol to Gibraltar. Another group has gone ahead to Gibraltar to assemble the shark cage. Rogue sharks apparently occasionally seek a human morsel or two off the rock. They could be in luck.
The cage is a no-go area. It will not be necessary. The sharks are not a problem. Also, it hasn't gone together as well as one would have expected. What happened was when we arrived here this morning, we tried to erect the cage and the size of it has buckled in transit. It will not fit together as one expected. Having said that, the pilot of the boat says that the sharks are not a problem. Over.
Hello, Mike. Hard night?
Mike Gill's group are still 15 miles from Gibraltar, but approaching fast.
Graham said he'll do the first swim will be out of the marina. Now it's beautiful and calm, and Graham said he would do that and we'll get a good half mile out of him. Any more than that would be, we don't know what's happened, because it's apparently force 4 to a force 6 out in mid-channel. That's 4 to 6, okay? Which is up as high as it was in the channel. But it doesn't have any white horses, so it's just swell. So it's less of a problem than we had in the channel.
Whatever their condition, the cyclists are prepared to go for it. But there are 2 significant points. The meagre 7 days they allotted themselves for an awesome physical test have just elapsed. And more critically,